Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be taking a closer look at Virgo and Virgo compatibility.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so like when we think about Virgos, right?
Right.
We often think about, organization and like a place for everything and everything in its place.
Right. Practicality.
Practicality, exactly. So what happens when you get two Virgos together?
Yeah, that's what's so interesting is that, like, on the one hand, they have so much in common, these fundamental shared values. They approach life in the same way.
And on the same page.
They're on the same page, exactly. But that can also be the source of some of their challenges.
Okay, how so?
So, for example, Virgos are known for, attention to detail.
Right, very detail oriented.
And this can be a great thing.
Right,
Right.
right.
But it can also, in a relationship, become a tendency to focus on flaws.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Because if you're dating another Virgo, it's like dating like a mirror in a way. You're
Yeah.
dating your biggest critic.
Exactly. The analysis actually uses the term criticism multiplier to talk about this.
Oh, criticism
Where
multiplier.
you have two people who are predisposed to maybe giving a little bit of constructive criticism.
Mhm.
Individually, not a bad thing.
Right, right.
But together, it can kind of amplify that tendency.
So it's like instead of just being like, oh, honey, you missed a spot, it's like, well, if you had done it this way, then maybe.
Exactly. Or it can become like a whole discussion about, attention to detail or whose approach is better. And, what might seem like a minor observation to others can become this like big point of contention between two Virgos.
Yeah, I can see that. And so, I mean, that criticism multiplier, it's not just about like nitpicking. It's about like, it sounds like it can really impact the joy of the relationship. Like, are we having fun?
Exactly.
But, okay, so before we completely write off Virgo love, because I don't think we should do that,
No.
what are some of the strengths that the analysis highlighted?
Well, I think one of the biggest strengths is that shared value system, right?
Yeah.
So they both are going to prioritize intelligence. They're going to prioritize hard work. They're going to be very detail-oriented in their approach to life.
They have that in common, which is huge.
Exactly. So it's a really strong foundation.
Yeah. So strong foundation. Okay. So, like, how does that actually play out, though, in a relationship? Are we talking, like, shared hobbies? Are we talking color-coded calendars?
I mean, you might be surprised. Yeah, like, because they both crave that order, it can actually lead to a very fulfilling routine together.
Oh, okay.
So think like cozy nights in. Maybe they love to cook elaborate meals together, very precise with like all the ingredients.
With their measuring spoon.
Exactly. Or like maybe they take on a big home improvement project and they actually really enjoy like working through all the steps together.
So it really is like, that opposites attract. It's not always the case. Sometimes it really is about, like, finding someone who just gets your love for, like, a perfectly organized, whatever it is.
Totally. And it goes beyond just like shared interests, right?
Yeah.
It's a deeper alignment about like their values, their life goals.
Yeah.
And for Virgos, that can be really powerful. It means that like each partner feels seen, they feel understood, and they feel supported.
And we can't forget communication, right? I mean, Virgos are ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication.
That's right.
So they must have, like, that ability to really talk to each other and understand each other.
Absolutely. That's actually huge. I mean, imagine being able to like express yourself clearly and directly to your partner.
Right.
And knowing that they're like kind of wired to understand your communication style.
It's like they've got like a built-in translator or something.
Exactly.
But the analysis did mention, some emotional challenges for Virgos. So how does that work when, they seem to be so good at communication?
Well, this is where things get really interesting because while Virgos might excel at like practical communication, expressing their emotions openly, that can be a whole different story.
Oh.
So they might overthink things, they get stuck in their heads. They might be like a little hesitant to really be vulnerable.
So it's like they've got like this huge vocabulary for logic, but when it comes to feelings, it's like...
Yeah, it's like they're missing a few words.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you have two Virgos in a relationship, this tendency can kind of get amplified, right? Because they both might retreat into their heads. They might start analyzing their emotions instead of just like expressing them.
Right. Yeah. And so it's like they're missing out on, some of those key ingredients, right, for what makes a relationship really, really work.
Right.
The passion, the like, the risk.
Vulnerability.
The vulnerability, yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so for all the Virgos who are listening out there,
Right.
or anyone who's dating a Virgo, because I'm sure there's a few of you as well, don't worry. Like, this is all good information to know, right?
Hey, this is good. This is like, when you know something, you can work with it, right? It's that awareness, like that self-awareness and then relationship awareness can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, what can Virgos do? Like, how do they navigate this emotional piece?
Well, I think the first step is like we were saying, it's that awareness, right? So just recognizing like, okay, maybe I am someone who kind of retreats into my head a little bit when it comes to feelings, or maybe my partner does.
Right.
How can we how can we make space for that in our relationship? So it's about like creating that safe space to be vulnerable, encouraging each other to share feelings openly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I feel like, knowing Virgos, just saying like, okay, let's share our feelings now, that's maybe not gonna like totally resonate.
Right, it might feel a little forced. So start small. Like instead of thinking about like these grand gestures,
Uh-huh.
focus on those like everyday expressions of affection and appreciation.
Okay, so what does that look like? Like, give us some examples.
So I don't know, like leave a little note, a heartfelt note, or plan a surprise date, or just even like when your partner's talking, like really make eye contact and listen. You know,
Those little
those little
moments.
moments, yeah.
Because it's about weaving it into like the day to day.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember, like, it's a journey. It's not, you're not going to figure it out overnight, right?
Right.
It's something that you kind of work towards.
This has been so, so insightful. So to wrap things up for our listeners today, like what's the key takeaway about Virgo and Virgo?
I think, yeah, the key takeaway here is that while those shared values, that intellectual connection, so important,
Hmm.
it's really that passion, that spontaneity, that emotional vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's really what's going to make for like a really fulfilling and lasting bond.
It's like finding that
And
balance
balance, yeah.
between the head and the heart, between the logic and the love. Well, we'll leave our listeners with this. Can a Virgo-Virgo relationship not just survive, but thrive, not just on like shared to-do lists and a perfectly organized, spice rack,
Right, right.
but on a willingness to embrace like all of the messy and unpredictable stuff that comes with really opening your heart?
100%.
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we will see you next time.